So we have the Union of Britain right now attacking north. Emperor of Japan declared war on the Philippines. Philippines. Are the Philippines in a faction? They're Reichspakt, aren't they? Yes! Okay, so CoPro is now at war with the Reichspakt. I thought. So I'm expecting to see Russian invasion of the Ukraine soon. We've got Chinese soldiers here, we've got Russian soldiers here. A single line of Ukrainians. They're trying to hold the whole thing instead of maybe consolidating some of their front line and saving a whole bunch of units. Russians lined up against the Swedes. We got Russians lined up against the Ukrainians in Ruthenia. And then we've also got the Union of Britain pushing up north through the Levant and actually taking a bit of territory, so they are clearly actually capable of attacking. While we've also got the French attacking through the Ardennes. I'm shocked. Tanks actually pushing through the Ardennes? What? However, it does look like there is an enormous stack of German infantry who are going to be able to put a pause to that offensive. These French tanks, as mighty as they are, not really making a dent. They could probably do with bringing in the second wave just to keep that 40 stack pinned, because they are pushing through to the south of that. And then once they're through these woods, and then they'll be faced with the Rhine. But that's also another thing that they need to then fight against. Meanwhile, some forces moving along the rest of the Siegfried line, but otherwise inconsequential. Russia has declared war on the Ottomans. And we now have the Russians well and truly fighting, and we have got an offensive with no actual troops assigned, so that's not going to be doing anything. Maybe some Chinese attackers. We have Ukrainians trying to go across Crimean Strait. And then we have a Russian push into the Ottomans, which is completely unguarded. So what might happen here, if the Russians can pull it off, is a cut-off for the Levant forces here. And then if the 3rd International Navy is doing their job and their submarines are in the area, which I think they probably still are, they could effectively cut off with retreat. Although no, actually they can... Oh no, they'd be cut off. Yeah, they could actually probably catch any units there sitting. Is Ukraine a player? Yes. Fall of Shanghai. That's just legation cities which were in the Entente, I believe. Yep, there they go. And then we have the attack on German East Asia in through Malaya and onwards to Singapore. And it looks like Bulgaria being sent packing by the combined CNT and British forces in the Levant. But I think the big deal is here. It's the massive push through the Ardennes, going up towards Dusseldorf. This is the reserve. This is the reverse Ardennes offensive. Potentially catching a lot of AI nations here if they manage to loop up and take out Western Rhineland. Coming to France declared war on the Netherlands. We've got the going north and around there. Netherlands with no units defending the south at all. Kind of an interesting strategy there. All of the Dutch forces caught completely napping against the Germans, despite the fact that some time ago the French did complete their focus to give them a war goal against the Dutch. And the surround is going to be coming here. They'll probably go north into Nord-Holland and then across into Friesland. The Dutch Navy fleeing for safety in the meantime. And then the attack into Maastricht, which is going to open up yet another offensive position across. We've got the German forces withdrawing to the Rhine line here to hopefully try and staunch the oncoming flood of French. It does sound like there's a bit of coordination between the 3rd International and the Co-Prosperity Sphere, because the Reichspakt just has nothing guarding here. Against the sheer weight of enemies, it looks like the Ukrainians are in fact electing to pull back to a more defensive position, as I thought they might do, and it actually looks like they have been rapidly building up some defences along the line here, and whatever river this is, providing a pretty good frontier, although the Russians are already pushing in behind them, going towards Poland. Meanwhile, the assault on the Ottomans continues on unabated. Still no Reichspakt forces in the area at all. Meanwhile, the heavy tanks rolling across the Iraqi deserts, going into Syria, and then probably trying to cut off the Third International offensive and stop them gaining too much of the territory here. Reichspakt definitely caught a little bit unprepared here, but the Reichspakt still has a lot of troops. I think they're probably over-committing a little bit to the Western Front and leaving the Eastern Front to kind of implode. I think that the Ukrainians are going to find themselves overwhelmed because of the sheer weight of this offensive. And then, of course, we also have the forces in Dalmatia who would be able to open up another front as well. Lots and lots of units charging around at the moment. I think that Germany could really do with sending some forces to go and help out the Ukrainians. I think, just like in the Second World War, it's not going to be the Western Front that beats them, it's going to be the Eastern Front. The Ardennes are impenetrable. Tanks can't go through there. Yeah, definitely no tanks here. I don't know what you're talking about. White Ruthenia has capitulated. Which country am I playing as? I'm not, I'm the commentator. I see all. So Reichspakt does indeed seem to be dead, and as I anticipated, this is going to be a final showdown between the Co-Pro and the Third International. This is now going to be down to how much of the Reichspakt Co-Prosperity Sphere, how much of the Reichspakt Third International can take. If they take enough of the German industry, then they might be able to staunch the oncoming Co-Pro. If, however, they are stymied in the West, as Germany seems eager to do, and Co-Pro takes it all, then it's over. Co-Pro wins. Meanwhile, the oncoming forces, they have managed to get the cut-off. Third International have been cut off by the Russians in the Middle East. They're not going to be able to take out Turkey. Netherlands has capitulated. What happens to the Dutch East Indies in this instance? I'm guessing they fight on. No. Dutch Indies are only at war with Interlindia still. They didn't even join the war. Okay. Interesting. Meanwhile, Singapore is about to fall. There are a couple of Reichspakt units here, but not really enough. And the damage done by Indochina versus German-East Asia earlier, I think, is really coming back to haunt them. Because they're just not going to have that many troops in the field. 11,000 manpower left. They do still have a fair number of divisions. Like, they... Oh, no. No, they're not that strong. Look at how weak these are. Okay, there's a couple there which are fairly decently strong. But, anything going on with the Entente? No. And I would actually say that this is probably the point where the Third International wants to unleash Mexico and the United States. Because the United States has still not garrisoned the Mexican border. And that would also unleash Colombia? No, Colombia's Entente. So is Venezuela. Peru? Peru's neutral. Huzzah! So it would unleash the Brazilians and the Argentines on Colombia and Venezuela, because they do actually have a land border. So that is what would happen there. So it would be difficult, because they'd basically have to go via the Amazon. Meanwhile, cut-off. Big cut-off in Belgium. But these are, I think, almost entirely AI units. So not a huge loss, although any loss of troops and manpower is, of course, a blow that is going to be felt. Meanwhile, the Rhine line does seem to be holding right now. It does look like the Third International are going to be invited into Saarbrücken and the territories up to Mainz and Meinheim. And Strasbourg... That is Strasbourg. Basically taking Alsace-Lorraine back for the French. Meanwhile, the Dalmatian frontier seems pretty quiet. No real troops set up. They are attacking slowly but surely into Bulgaria, probably trying to take them while their attentions may be focused elsewhere. Meanwhile, there is a Italian naval invasion of Greece, and this is what I anticipated, is you would start seeing Third International naval invasions going on through Anatolia, going in through Greece, going in through southern Thrace, and up into Bulgaria that way, possibly in Anatolia as well, particularly because they are now cut off here. We do still have a few Ottomans holding out in that area, though they are going to be woefully out of supply. It's just kind of unfortunate that the Russians were so good at getting this cut off. Like, they're just driving ahead just to make sure that as much as of Anatolia goes to them as is possible. White Ruthenia is going to be pretty well occupied. Kiev is under threat right now. A bunch of Russians have, however, been encircled, but it is a bit of a weak encircle. If these Russians moved in to reinforce them, they'd be completely fine. But I'm guessing that Russia just has so many things going on right now that microing all of this is going to be very, very difficult. Grasswing, thank you very much for the 6-month resubscription. Congratulations on earning those green horns, which go well with grass, I hear. Green and grass. Unless you're in California, in which case it's the golden grass. Australasian Confederation declared war upon Germany, so that is the Entente going after the Germans now. What are they hoping to gain from this? Possibly Nationalist France going after Middle Africa, is what I'm guessing here. So everybody's now jumping in against the Reichspakt, and Germany and co are definitely finding themselves kind of encircled. But this is, again, all playing into the hands of the co-prosperity sphere. I think that they're just in such a dominant position that nobody wants to declare war on them. Easier for the Third International to take factories off of Germany than CoPro. Yeah, I'm not convinced by that, because Germany's got their entire army guarding over here and nothing over here. Like, Germany has absolutely no divisions defending the east. At all. Whatsoever. I don't really know what Germany's been doing. I want to see their units. They're training mountaineers for some reason. Still have 1 million manpower. They're out of convoys. I don't know what their equipment situation's like, and I don't want to look. It's not fair. Meanwhile, we have the... Oh no! The Russian heavy tanks with basically no organization are just YOLOing for Constantinople right now. And it looks like they might even oh no, this is from... Sorry, that was from the wrong perspective. No, it's not going to succeed. But they went for it. They were like, screw it, let's go. Let's take the straits while we can. Which game is this? The 4th? Yes, this is the 4th. Huzzah! The grass is indeed green where you are. Good. Sardinia joined. Okay, that's just people joining. Berlin? Oh, it's the Italian powers! YOLO! Just one super weak unit of powers just were like, you know what? Berlin seems like a nice place to spend some time. And that is going to be weakening the Reichspakt. Austria is on the way to capitulation. Germany stays on the way to capitulation. Huzzah! Where's Germany? Germany is on the way to capitulation. I mean, the Rhineland line is going to hold pretty well. Germany's... Why? They've suddenly woken up to the danger. They're like, oh, Berlin fell. Maybe something I should do about the east. PBAT, thank you very much for the Twitch Prime subscription. Very much appreciate that. Why are my notifications not working properly? Sindrin gifted a sub to Best Liffers. Thank you very much for that, Sindrin. Rizki, thank you very much for the follow. Welcome to the channel. What's Germany's fielded manpower? Germany's fielded manpower right now is 2.2 million. Huzzah! So Germany is now starting to set up a eastern front line. They're starting to see the danger. German tanks have descended upon Berlin because they're definitely not better used elsewhere. Meanwhile, there is a huge offensive opening up in Dalmatia with the French surging out towards Bulgaria. Russia declared war on Romania. That's just another Reichspakt. CNTF AI continue to push, not really gaining anything though. Meanwhile, the naval invasion of Greece has also taken a bunch of territory, so it does look like they're going to be taking a fair amount of the Balkans. They're losing out in Anatolia and the Middle East, but they are taking the Balkans. But the real question is who's going to get Germany's factories? Huzzah! That's the issue at hand here. Because right now, the Third International have 800 factories. Russia, Co-Prosperity, have got 783. 783 versus 838. So it's only about 50 different. No, 70. 80. Reichspakt have still got 633 factories. Which could really swing the groups one way or the other. And then meanwhile the Entente are here with 573. So the Entente still have a lot of industrial power, which they could use to one side or the other. And there goes Finland. Sweden's probably going to be next. Yep, Sweden's armies are being caught behind the lines in Finland. Sweden itself basically unguarded with just one division here on the front lines. The rest of these completely behind the lines, and they are going to get taken out. I think Germany will be able to hold out for a while, but all of Germany's allies are just falling now. We've got some pretty hectic naval battles going on. We've got Bulgarian convoys probably trying to ship units away, with the French submarines, as anticipated, blocking them in. I've got to say, the Third International's naval situation has definitely improved. Ottoman Empire, meanwhile, has fallen to Russia, and the Russian behemoth just continues to grow ever larger. Andio, thank you very much for the gifted sub to Death or Glory. Death or Glory, congratulations on the gifted sub, courtesy of Andio. Thank you. And also, thank you very much for the subscription. Welcome to the Maudlings. Good to have you joining us. PBAT, did I acknowledge your Twitch Prime? I don't think I did. Thank you also very much for the Twitch Prime there, PBAT. Welcome to the Maudlings. Okay, so Warsaw is now under attack. Poland is not one of the played nations. Ukraine, however, is. And we have got units on the outskirts of Kiev pushing in. How close is Ukraine to capitulation? Ukraine's very close. I suspect if Kiev goes, then Ukraine goes. And that's going to be opening up a giant backdoor into the Reichspakt. I don't think they're really in a position to do much about that. We do have more German units setting up around Bohemia and Austria. Germany completely selling Ukraine down the river here. And also Sweden, though Sweden would be more difficult for them to deal with. They do still have a large navy. They are trying to protect against widespread light cruisers in the North Sea, which is actually a good move. Don't put submarines there, but cruisers are fine. Except for potential naval bombers. That did not capitulate Ukraine. Yes, it did. Yes, it did. And Bulgaria is gone. On the same day as Ukraine. That's a huge blow. Bulgaria, Ukraine gone. Sweden's not going to be long left. And then it's just going to be Austria and Germany remaining. Requin coming in with a massive number of bits. Wow, thank you so much for that, Requin. Really appreciate it. Building to a great finish, being a good game. Expertly commentated, of course. Well, thank you. Empire of Japan has declared war on France. So, the CoPro is now at war with the Third International. This is the true showdown. Is going to be between CoPro and Third International. But I think my prediction, as I said earlier, is the fact that CoPro has not managed to push across the Rhine is going to mean that all of this is going to go to the CoPro. Although, there are a lot of pushes coming through the Balkans. If the Balkan offensive can break through in Hungary and then come around the back, maybe through Bohemia and into Germany, then possibly they'll get some of that German industry. But right now, I'm just seeing a lot more potential for the Russians. But the Germans are trying to defend their back line here. Germany is going to Endsieg mode. Yeah, they kind of are. Meanwhile, we do still have a lot of CNTF AI units in Egypt. So the declaration of war between Russia and the... Oh no, they're on a defensive footing. I thought that they might have gone offensive, but actually this is a lot of Russian heavy tanks. It looks like the Russian armor is down in the Middle East as opposed to trying to push into here. We do have a Russian naval invasion coming in through the Dardanelles, and also they have now taken Constantinople. French units are withdrawing from that position as we speak, and it does look like the Russians have made their way into the Balkans. They may be sweeping in behind the Third International push, which could actually isolate and destroy quite a few units. What is Japan's navy doing? a lot of work here, apparently. None of it garrisoning, but considering the naval efforts of their enemies, I'm not that surprised. I was wondering if they're going to try and take out the Mediterranean, but they can't, of course, because they don't have any way in. But this has suddenly become a bit of a liability. If Canada and the USA, again, they can't get in. No, never mind. Yeah, if they can hold on to Suez, that would help them. But is Suez itself being guarded? Yes, they do have some units guarding the entrance to Suez from the outside. That is probably a good idea, because I can't really see the Reichspakt now threatening the entrance to the Mediterranean. And we still have a very large CNTFAI force in Morocco. It doesn't look like France and, well, actually, the Reichspakt, the Entente and International are at war. Iceland joined us all over for the co-prosperity sphere. Nigeria capitulated. Okay, so this is the USA and Nationalist France going after Middle Africa, so they're trying to grab what they can in Africa at the moment, which does make sense. I mean, they're basically circling like vultures, trying to take the little bits and pieces here and there that they can take. So what would the Entente's best play here be? Possibly waiting a little bit of time until the Third International and the Co-Prosperity Sphere are well and truly engaged, then hitting them from behind. Yeah, because I can't really see them doing enough damage hitting the Co-Prosperity. I think they would basically need to try and crawl into the skin of the Third International in order to come back into the game. But that's going to take some doing, because Third International is still super strong. They are by no means close to defeat here. But Co-Prosperity Sphere is just so strong right now. Look how big they are. But as the Entente grab more of this, if the Entente goes to war with Third International, take out Argentina and Brazil, that's going to effectively give them the Americas, plus of course Mexico. They will need to set up armies to do that, but that's possible. Then once they control the Americas, then maybe they can marshal their safer position to prepare invasions against, say, Europe or Africa. And in fact, if they own Africa, they would have 3 continents. Versus the Co-Prosperity Sphere, which would have only 2. In fact, they would have 4, because they also have Oceania. But this is going to... Third International, if they can push through and take Germany, they'll be fine. But I just don't see it happening. I'm going to keep looking at this from Germany's perspective, because it is going to be the efforts of Germany which determine who gets that prize. Meanwhile, Austria still holding their lines against the Italians here in the south. We do have Third International continuing to push north through Hungary now. There goes Romania falling to Russia. Enemy at the gates for Germany. They get some big buffs from that. A bunch of provinces gain forts in Brandenburg. Meanwhile, a huge number of units cut off. Again, no player units. This is just Hungarian, Illyrian, Legation, Polish. And for the moment, Hungary is holding. But for how long? All German support and all Austrian support has been withdrawn. So Hungary is just being guarded by the AI remnants, effectively. And the Germans now massively outnumber the French. So a bit of a surprise response would be the Germans crossing the Rhine and counterattacking into France while France is so heavily committed elsewhere. Although, where is France committed? Where are their armies? They're trying to do a massive push into the Netherlands. In fact, that's where the French are. They're pushing through the north. They may have done this attacking through the Netherlands. We've got their medium tanks here leading the vanguard. The Germans scrambling to make up for this fall. We've got Leeuwarden, which has been taken, surrounding a bunch of AI units there. Groningen, I don't know why you're not pushing out. You need to be pushing out. Take Wilhelmshaven. Get yourself a port. Start flooding it with non-existent Union of Britain troops. Maybe CNTFAI has some. Because that's basically what you've got to do. Exploit this opening. Which right now, you're not. And Germany might actually be able to react and restore that. We do have German troops moving in from the East Front, which they have now handed over to the Austrians, because Germany is determined not to fall to the Internationale. They would much rather hand their surrender over to the Co-Prosperity Sphere and basically hand them the game. Yeah, the lack of action here. Like, France needed to keep pushing. This is giving Germany time to scramble and get a defense going. Oh, no, we've seen the tanks starting to move now. I mean, France has got a lot of stuff going on, but this is really where their focus needs to be right now, because that is their best opportunity of breaking through and basically opening up the German defenses and then potentially starting a big attack across the Rhine. It would be a suicidal attack, but we would at least pin all of these units in and stop them being reassigned to other positions, like defending the river here from Bremen. Is that a naval invasion of Denmark? It is! This is where the Union of Britain's naval forces have come... Oh no, it's just one marine. The one naval marine attacking, which is super under strength. This obviously a guy that's just been pushed out. Or he lost most of his transports. That's probably more likely. To who? It's not important. French attacks are coming. They're trying to cross at Bremen. We still have a couple of units scrambling. They're on this side of the river, though. I don't know why they're on this side of the river. Why are you on this side of the river? Probably to buy time for this side of the river. Look at the number of different orders being given out here. This is a wild scramble to try and save as much as they can. But this determination to stop France is... oh dear. But France doesn't care. France just like, you know what? Try and stop me. Just try and stop me. Does a player play on if he gets puppeted? I don't think you're allowed to puppet players. And no, I would think not. Because these are set teams. How many mills does China have? China currently has got 91 military factories, 110 civilians, to Russia's 162 militaries and 200 civilians. Like, Russia is absolutely booming right now. They've got 847 factories. Entente has got 583. Co-Prosperity... Sorry, Third Internationale, still 860. So, Third Internationale and Co-Prosperity are still incredibly even in terms of their industrial output. But Co-Prosperity is just so much bigger. It would basically be this versus this, with the Entente down here. So the Entente is not out. It just depends on how quickly they can push into Middle Africa, secure Middle Africa, and then start attacking the Third Internationale. And they've got to do that soon. They need to be putting the extra pressure on the Third Internationale. They need to be taking Mexico. They need to be securing the Americas, while the Third Internationale is so busy over here. Because I feel like there's going to be a bit of a stalemate that emerges in Eastern Europe, and at that point, the Third Internationale can start looking abroad, and they can start looking at the weakness, which is Southern America. This is really interesting. Thanks for the great commentary. You're welcome. I'm enjoying this. I do actually really like these commentary things. Like I said previously, I do actually do a fair amount of like AI only. I just enjoy watching the map moving and changing, as well as playing myself from time to time, of course. Meanwhile, we have got the Swedes trying to get some revenge and attacking into an actually relatively poorly guarded Switzerland. Switzerland... I'm not actually sure what Switzerland was doing this game. Because Switzerland is a player. The Helvetic Commune, right? They are a player. And there goes Sweden. And they are holding at the moment, so that's fine. Are they just factories? Yeah, I think they're basically just factoring up and then sending out logistics. I don't think they're the air controller, because Britain was the air controller. They have a couple of planes. Because I think ordinarily Switzerland would be air controller and then Britain does navy and also some army stuff, but in this Britain's the air controller. So I'm not sure. Oh, I know what it is. Switzerland's building planes and then sending them to Britain. That's what's happening. Because Britain has the manpower to actually make use of them. Meanwhile, in Germany, we have not got a Russian push across the river yet. Attacking into Stettin and actually succeeding. Remember, we're seeing this from the German perspective, so red is bad for them. The French attack has been stymied for the moment, but they have got their river crossing. They have taken Bremen, and from Bremen they can move towards Magdeburg and potentially even threaten Berlin, cutting off this northern front. Plus, of course, we have our British Marine moving down through Denmark in the north. Austria has withdrawn the bulk of their forces from the Italian front, so the Italians could probably start pushing into Austria if they were so inclined. We do also have the Third International pushing on Austria's eastern flank, where it also looks like they're going to collapse. And in fact, these guys, if they attack, they could pin that army, if nothing else. Then we've also got the Dalmatian attack chewing up and chewing through Hungary, although it actually looks like the vast bulk of Hungary is falling to Russia rather than Third International, which I think they will see as disappointing. We do have Russian infantry breaking through into Bohemia, the Austrians choosing to abandon the Czech people to their fate and guarding the mountains on the edge of Germany instead, basically throwing all of their weight into trying to defend Germany at any cost and deny the factories to either side, though this attack into the Austrian defences looks like it may succeed. Also the attack across the river into Stettin? Not Stettin. Yeah, it is Stettin. Attack into Stettin, getting their river crossing, which would then allow them to directly threaten Berlin, because there are no further defensive features until Berlin, with the exception of the forest. But these are infantry units. They don't care. They're not tanks. Meanwhile, the French have pushed down to Dortmund, moving in to threaten against Kassel. No real moves across the Siegfried line, but all of the offensives are very much here in the north. I do feel like France could do with being a little bit more aggressive, though. They're using their... well, I guess they're using their very, precision attacks in certain positions rather than full-on offensives. Most likely to try and maintain some manpower against the co-prosperity sphere. But at this point, they need to just be trying to take as much of Germany as possible. Meanwhile, in the south, the CNTFAI continuing to try and guard Jerusalem and the Levant against the Russian forces. It does look like they have effectively developed into a stalemate. The Russians do, however, have some ports down here which they could use to try and do naval invasions, but they do have convoys defending this. Oh, sorry, they have convoy escorts guarding that area. Oops.